How hormones influence fat loss. Every woman's body is unique when it comes to losing body fat. What works for one might not work for another. The thing we all have in common is hormones, which influence everything from our ability to maintain muscle and lose body fat to how we experience stress and hunger. Number one, estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone are the primary female sex hormones that control a hormone cycle. Estrogen regulates mood by improving serotonin levels in the brain. It also influences other metabolic hormones such as cortisol and insulin. Progesterone is important for a sense of equilibrium and is a natural diuretic. It affects thyroid hormone, and because it acts as a precursor to cortisol, it can be influenced by large amounts of stress. How they get out of balance. A common problem is for women to have too much estrogen compared to progesterone, a condition known as estrogen dominance. Not only does estrogen dominance lead to mood swings and irregular periods, it often leads to fat gain due to how it can trigger a cascade of changes to hormones involved in metabolic rate. Number two, insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone that will first store glucose as a fuel source called glycogen in muscle. Once glycogen stores are full, insulin deposits any excess energy as fat. How it gets out of balance. Anyone can experience a reduction in insulin sensitivity in response to an unhealthy diet and lack of physical activity. When this happens, insulin levels begin to rise and more insulin is needed to dispose of glucose in cells. Higher insulin levels are associated with fat gain and problems with appetite and dysregulation of hunger hormones. Cortisol. Cortisol is released from the adrenal glands in response to both physical and psychological stress in order to free energy stores to be burned. In times of stress, cortisol is vital. For example, during exercise, cortisol can be beneficial for body composition by triggering fat burning. How it gets out of balance. When stress becomes chronic, cortisol levels will become excessively elevated, which leads to muscle loss, fat gain in the abdominal area, and suppressed immune function. Cortisol triggers food intake of high-carb foods, making it easy to overshoot your calories. This combination of high cortisol and high insulin caused by high-carb intake leads the body to store fat and often trips women up, especially as we age. Thyroid hormone, what it does. Thyroid hormone regulates metabolic rate by affecting enzyme activity, body temperature, and energy levels. It also involves in heart function and central nervous activity. How it gets out of balance. Thyroid hormone is very sensitive to factors like calorie restriction, excessive exercise, lack of carbohydrates in the diet, and changes in other hormones in the body. For example, one reason people often plateau when losing body fat is that thyroid hormones are reduced, lowering body temperature so that the body burns fewer calories. Leptin and ghrelin. Leptin is the hormone that regulates appetite, normally reducing hunger in normal weight people. It is released from fat tissue as a way of helping to regulate body fat. That is, the more body fat you have, the more leptin you'll have and the lower your appetite will be. Whereas the leaner you are, the lower leptin will be and hunger will increase. Ghrelin is released from cells in the GI tract, having a twofold effect on appetite by directly stimulating hunger and activating the reward center of the brain. This means that in addition to the physical hunger you experience, there is also a psychological-driven emotional hunger that motivates us to seek out pleasurable, high-fat, high-carbs foods. How they get out of balance. The biggest problem with leptin is that the brain can become resistant to leptin's message to reduce hunger. This is most common in people who have the habit of dieting, are overweight, or go on a binge. What can you do to improve hormone balance and body composition as you enter middle age? Here are 11 actions to take. If you start in your 30s, you will make a much better transition so that once you enter middle age, you'll have habits in place that can help you stay lean and healthy. However, you can start anywhere, wherever you are in your journey. Number one, eat more protein. 2, eat high-quality protein at every meal. 3, eat leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. Avoid refined carbs and junk food. Watch out for too much food and healthy carbs. Eat high-fiber foods at every meal. Reduce caffeine. Drink at least 3/4 gallon of water a day. Cope with stress. Avoid nutrient deficiencies. And 11, use supplements. If you want to learn more, DM me the word Forever Fit. Ciao.